This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, gang. What is going on? Huss and Reem with you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. And we got a banger for you. We got lots to talk about. The Olympic Games are officially underway. Opening ceremonies happening this afternoon in Paris. The Canadian soccer Olympic scandal grows and takes down some more individuals. Bev Priestman, the head coach, on her way back to Canada, will not be on the sidelines for the Olympic Games. We will touch on that, as well as local Manitoba products competing in the Olympic Games, what to look for this weekend. We're going to start things off by welcoming Jesse Campigotto of the CBC to set up Paris for the weekend in the upcoming 2 weeks. Ken Wiebe's going to jump on with us as well a little bit later on to discuss the latest in the Jets offseason. I know Wiebe was out at Rossmere too for the Manitoba Am. Huge story this week in Manitoba golf. I'm sure he'll have some takes on that. Eddie Tait is going to join us from Toronto, where the Bombers are getting ready to take on the Argonauts tomorrow night in a game that they absolutely have to have. We're also going to bring in our pal Jeffrey Bannon in for a few minutes before we drop the marbles for a little more information on the 1930 Crew Labor Day bus trip. If you're thinking about joining us, do not wait. Go to at the 1930 Crew on any of the social channels or the 1930crew at gmail.com for more information and to book your spots on that. And then, of course, it's Friday, and that means marbles. But we got to talk about Patrick Laine, Rasheed Bailey, homecoming conversations, maybe. We'll certainly get to that and much, much more. Got to give a big shout-out to all of the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our pals at Garage Living Winnipeg, who are the sponsors of CFL 110. Coolbet Canada just finished up a fun lock shop with Dusty. You can check that at the Edmonton Sports Talk channel. Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, and Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, The Beer Can, along with Next Door, and Hoagie Boys. Of course, the Gold Eyes, who are back in action this weekend, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, and we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Remo, what's up?
I'm in a good mood, Huss. First of all, it's Friday. Always great. Heading into a weekend, good weather, but also opening ceremonies on right now. I am watching them. Lady Gaga just performed. All the countries, they're coming down in the boats in the Seine River with the flags and their outfits. Olympics are here. I got my Canada hat on.
Nice hat.
Yes.
What is that hat? Is that just a...
It's just
like a Mondetta hat?
It's a new era hat, or is it with the Canada flag on it? The most generic thing you could get. So I wear it once a year on Canada Day, but I'm bringing it out today for Olympics because I'm so fired up.
Well, I mean, listen, this Olympic scandal around our women's soccer team continues to grow. And, we talked about it quite a bit for the last couple days. It was after we finished the show, though, yesterday, Remis, that Rick Westhead got entered the chat and reports that, what Canadian soccer has been doing using drones has spanned, up to 10 years back with both the men's and the women's teams at times. And, just a terrible way to start the games for the Canadian Olympic Committee, certainly for Canada Soccer, especially our women's national team, who are there in Paris defending their Olympic championship, and more people are taking a bullet. I mean, Bev Priestman, the head coach, originally, I don't know whether she thought that this would be enough, said, you know what, I will voluntarily step back and not be on the sidelines for the New Zealand game while they sent the other two individuals, the staffer and the assistant coach that was the direct report home. Well, Bev got on that next flight. She's gone. An assistant is going to take over. And just so much turmoil around the Canadian team, despite their 2-1 win over New Zealand yesterday. They are going to be public enemy number one in Paris on Sunday when they take on France at 2 p.m. Winnipeg time. But this really has been, I mean, this is a story that's being talked about not just in Canada, but around the world right now. And not a good look for a country that's usually, I think, pretty popular around the world in most circles.
Yeah, Rick Westhead with a very detailed report about, drone footage usage. It's been going on for years on the men and the women, recording opposing team practices and, using it. And you're not supposed to do that. John Herdman, who was the coach before, denied everything in his press conference today. He's with TFC now. And yeah, Bev Priestman, she's gone. And you have a lot of athletes now coming out and saying, hey, we didn't know anything about this. LeBay, the goalie, tweeting out, was saying that, hey, she researched, what, here it is. If anyone wants to speak about PKs, I studied hard the night before every match, watched video of players taking penalty kicks in national team and club games, made my own educated guesses based on that info. No drone footage was watched. Do not confuse great goalkeeping with cheating. And how about the big guns are coming out? Has Christine Sinclair putting out a post on Instagram basically saying this is unfortunate, but we had no control over that. I want to be clear, being on the national team for 23 years, we were never shown or discussed drone footage in team or individual meetings I've been present.
Well, and she's backing, the players. And listen, this is, I think, key. And this is kind of what I've been talking about for the last couple of days. I mean, regardless of how this shakes out with the characters involved and what was going on, I mean, it paints the entire program in a really bad light. The women that have represented our country so well do not deserve this. And Christine said as part of her statement, it's unfortunate that the players of our national team have had to play through condemnable actions by some of their staff as they attempt to defend our gold medal. Actions players have no control over. I want to be clear that having been a national team player for 23 years, we were never shown or discussed drone footage in team or individual meetings I've been present for. And then says, with one win already under their belts, I cannot wait to see what these players can continue to achieve in this tournament together. And I will continue to support the players along the way. I hope all Canadians will join me in doing so. And, and I think about Christine, obviously, who's not there. And I think about Des Scott from Winnipeg, who has been part of all three of the Olympic medals, including the gold medal in Tokyo. And Des originally wasn't on the team, Reem. She was added as a reserve just in the last few weeks. So she is there and is a part of the squad. And while she might not get onto the pitch, having a veteran voice and just such an upbeat person, I think will be big for the women. Because I can imagine, especially some of the younger players, that are in this situation, hearing all this about their team, their federation, what's going on. It's not an ideal situation to go out and play the host French on Sunday afternoon in such a big game. But you know what? When you do things like this and when you run an amateur hour operation where, very shortly after getting to France, one of your team staffers is arrested for using drone footage, I mean, it's so slapstick almost. I mean, there is an element of comedy in it, but it's not funny for everyone wearing red and white and representing Canada, especially the women in that competition.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are all, or these women are all great players. You're going up against a team like New Zealand, and there's laws against flying drones. For them to be like, we don't care about rules or laws. We're beyond that. We're going to fly our drone in a restricted area. No problem. We need that juicy New Zealand practice footage so badly that screw you, France. And I think that part of it is kind of laughable. Like, yeah, why? Like you think you're better? Like, you think it's just that you think you're better than the rules, that they don't apply to you. And you can have a conversation. Well, there's things worse. I'm sure there's a lot worse things you could do than record a practice, but this is prohibited. There was some secrecy, going behind the players' backs, and the coaches, had to have confidential conversations about it. And I think it's certainly disappointing. And yeah, for a team like New Zealand, it sounds a little unnecessary.
We'll talk about it coming up with Jesse Campigotto from the CBC. Probably get to that right off the bat before touring around for some of the other big Olympic events over the course of the Games, Canadian medal hopes, as well as what is happening this week. It did give me the opportunity to tweet yesterday that I blame the Patriots for all of this. The Spygate, the success that they had. People, pro sports is in a lot of ways a copycat business, and look to see who had the most success. Well, the Patriots were that team. They were cheating and just following it away. And of course, we did get the great nickname for Bev Priestman, Bevlichik. And Bev is on a plane and will not be on the sidelines probably ever again for Canada, I would imagine. There probably is going to be house cleaning. And the one thing I'll say, thank God that Jesse Marsh just took over our men's national program. I mean, there were so many good vibes and so many good things coming out of the Copa. I mean, even if they want to say that the men's team was involved in it and maybe Herdman was, doing some of that over the course of the World Cup qualifying, the fact of the matter is now Jesse had only 2 friendlies before the Copa, and then Copa, we haven't heard anything about that with the Canadian team in that event. So he gets a pass and a clean slate moving forward, and we'll see what happens with the women's team. But first up, we got to see if they can defend this Olympic medal. They're a big underdog to the French on Sunday as well. But Remo, we'll talk Olympics in a bit. We will have Ed Tait join us later on. And we've got some potential homecomings to talk about. Patrik Laine is officially out of the NHL Player Assistance Program, which is just fantastic news for the player and all of his fans wherever they are. That certainly is going to get people in Winnipeg talking. And for the Bombers, their old pal Rasheed Bailey was surprisingly released by the Toronto Argonauts. And I have a feeling a reunion for both of those players is going to be quite the topic around sports conversations this weekend in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and out in Lake Country.
Yeah, well, Rasheed Bailey, that was late last. You want to start there? Or,
yeah.
Which one you want to start with, Bailey or Laine? Bailey, Jeff tweeted that out late last night that Rasheed Bailey was cut, and I was very surprised. He is having a great season. He scored 2 touchdowns. He does receiving work. He's good in blocking. But they've had some players come back from injury, and because of ratio reasons, no longer a fit within their rosters. And, you said to me, well, he's going to be playing Saturday.
Start him.
For the Bombers. We're not quite there yet. Jeff tweeting out the Bombers in contact with Bailey's agent after surprise release. So it sounds like, it might happen. I like to see Rasheed Bailey back in the lineup. They have the injuries to Lawler and Schoen. They have some young guys in there as well. Do you bring in an experienced guy who can catch the ball, who can help you blocking, who knows the offense? Seems like with the injuries that they have, it would certainly, if they can fit it in, like they should do this for sure.
Any other player, it would be literally laughable to talk about, putting them right into the lineup. Not Sheed. I mean, he's been a Bomber for the last number of years. He knows the playbook. He knows the quarterback. He knows the majority of the offense. I'm not joking when I say if you sign him, throw him out there. We all know how intense Rasheed Bailey is. What would revenge game Rasheed look like in blue and gold against the team that cut him yesterday in the game on Saturday? As I said, anyone else, it would be laughable to think about it. Sheed, And yeah, and Adam Driver, just for the energy, man, like the energy that he brings and the energy he would have going up against his old team 2 days after getting cut. I would be here for it. And I'll say this, I would assume that they find a way to get something done with the injury to Dalton Schoen. Kenny Lawler's still out right now. Rasheed can play. He can still play. We've seen that so far. And he's always been a guy that sort of played with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, it would be a boulder going into this game on Saturday. But I would love to see Rasheed get back in blue and gold. And I would be, at this point, I'll go on the record, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen, not necessarily getting him into the lineup for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he'll have to wait and see. Jeff just tweeting out 4 hours ago there, have reached out to him. Any decision made after Saturday's game. Bailey is a lot of what the Bombers' attack has been missing. A reliable target, tough in the trenches. And then, yeah, someone mentioned to him in the comments saying, why don't they just sign him and play him? He's already in Toronto. And he just said it wasn't going to happen. Shut it down. But would be a very CFL thing to happen. But unfortunately, not on the card.
So I guess we'll have to wait for a potential Rasheed reunion later on this week. As far as the Bombers lineup goes, 3 changes in, and on the defensive side of the football, in DB Marquise Bridges, in DB Tyreek McGee, and linebacker Max Charbonneau, out Kyrie Wilson, Bailey Feltmate, and Brian Cole. And Wilson, Feltmate, and Cole all going to the 6-game injured list. So, I mean, Cole and Kyrie Wilson, pretty significant injuries. And that is just going to further stress a defense that has actually, I think, performed beyond expectations considering who they've lost in the injuries so far this season. But they're going to need to continue doing what they've doing, keeping the Bombers in games and giving them a chance to win, and hoping that the offense can fire it up a few more notches from what they've been doing lately, particularly last week, getting held to only 9 points against Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I think that Kyrie Wilson injury, that's a big one, Huss. He's missed some practice, and maybe a bit of a surprise that he ended up on the 6th game there. And you're going to need those linebackers for this rushing attack of the Argos that has been very strong with Kadeem Carey. Remember him from the Stampeders, signed with Toronto as a free agent. So they're going to try to run the ball with Kadeem Carey, try to open up some lanes, for their quarterback Dukes. And yeah, so the Bombers dealing with the injuries, but I agree, the defense has been solid. I'm more worried about the offense after what we saw last week. And pretty much like the BC game, I thought they showed signs. And what game? The game they won, sorry, not last week, the Calgary game, they were good. So which offense are we going to see tomorrow from the Bombers?
Listen, it's a big game for Zach Caleros and the Bomber offense, as we mentioned, and we'll talk about it with Ed Tait a little later on and see if Ed's got any more information on a potential return of Rasheed Bailey to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. While we talk about a potential imminent homecoming of Showtime Sheed, Patrick Laine is out of the NHL's player assistance program. Here's Elliot Friedman's tweet. Good news on Patrick Laine. He's cleared to return from the NHLPA player assistance program. Glad to see he's feeling better. He's still recovering from shoulder surgery. As for his NHL future, teams interested in acquiring him were told they are free to contact Laine. So that's the next step before he and the Blue Jackets decide how to proceed. Certainly it doesn't sound like anything is imminent, and the Blue Jackets are moving on as if he won't be with the club this year, and that's going to get a big portion of the Jets fan base fired up because, Remis, there has been rumblings that Patrick Laine would be very much open to a return to Winnipeg, and I got to tell you, it's an exciting thought. Laine coming back to the Peg would make a lot of people happy just on the surface, considering the way he left and what he did while he was here as a Winnipeg Jet. But also, I think in some ways humbled, in some ways motivated to reestablish himself as a star in the National Hockey League. And if that happens, whatever team gets Patrick Laine is going to be much better off for it. And God knows we've been talking about the power play, a big shot on that power play. And listen, we know what this guy can do. It's I thought it might be a bit more of a polarizing question, to be honest, when we started kicking this around a few weeks ago. For the most part, though, it sounds like it would be overwhelmingly positive amongst Jet fans. The big question is, though, what is the cost and how do you fit that big contract at $8.75 million on the books for the next 2 years in under the salary cap?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. I think the idea of Patrik Laine back in a Jets uniform, slapping one-timers, ripping goals, it's exciting. And then you see the contract and you're like, ooh, 8.7. I'm not sure how do you fit that in? How do you make this happen? Is he even worth 8.7? Now, if you can get him back to what he was when he, was in his Winnipeg before, then yeah, I think he certainly could be. And so the Blue Jackets, look, he's requested a change of scenery. Aaron Portzline saying Don Waddell, the GM, declined to comment on the matter, but as reported, teams, can speak with him before deciding to engage with trade talks, where you couldn't have any trade. You couldn't speak with him before. You couldn't have any trade talks while he was in the assistance program. And I wonder if we do see an offseason move here sooner than later, like how quickly does it happen? But I think a lot of Jets fans you're romanticizing the idea of, him returning back to the 2017-18 season. But I think you also have to think of, again, the downsides would be the contract, and there may be questions about his all around game, commitment levels at times. So we'll see what happens, but certainly an intriguing storyline. And I was just, while we were getting ready for the show, just thinking about what the pop would be, Huss, if he did return, if he did score goals, like the demand to get back for his first game here. I think that feeling that you get when you think of makes you want them to be like, okay, make this happen. But I just don't know how realistic it really is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, and it starts with the player. I mean, I think that, wherever he ends up, I mean, the goal is going to be to reestablish himself as a star in the National Hockey League, which he was while he was here. And, what he's been through, losing his father and being in the player assistance program. I mean, I don't claim to know the details of all of it, other than this would have been a really, really trying time for Patrik. But with the help that he's obviously received and being ready to play, I mean, the job is now to go out and prove your doubters wrong and get back to, where you were at times when you were, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous snipers in the National Hockey League. And listen, he was a polarizing player at times. Sometimes things didn't, well, again, I was a younger player too. There were certainly some downsides at times when Patrik was in slumps, but man, like I just have to say that if you can find a way to make the money work, never even mind how this would go over in the city, in the fan base, probably help you put a few more asses in seats as well. This is a guy that I would bet on, that I would take the chance with only 2 years left on the deal. And I'll tell you what, if it comes and it works out, like if you're able to do that, I think you're in a position, to put something together long-term at a number that makes sense for both sides. And it could be, a long-term homecoming of where Laine is exactly what we thought he'd be when the team drafted him second overall in 2016. A cornerstone part of this franchise for a long time. You're not committing to that when you bring him back. You're committing to give him a chance. And I got to tell you, I mean, I kind of said this half jokingly, but, if you're Scott Arniel and you're Davis Payne in charge of that power play, like, how different are your options if all of a sudden 29's back in town? And again, the thought of this is that the cost is not going to be significant. I mean, it was reported potentially even in and around a mid-round pick. The challenge, of course, is going to be getting everybody on side to feel that it's the right thing to do for the player and the team. And then bottom line, making the money work. And I'm not sure whether Columbus would be eating part of the salary, whether they would take another contract back that would, Because, I mean, like, it's this year that's the issue. If you look at the Jets the following year, Remis, there's a whole bunch of contracts that are coming off the books. So it's not as much a problem in year 2 of the deal as much as it is to make it work right now. But listen, I may be biased. A lot of people are, I think, around here about Laine. But we saw this young man come into the league and before he turned 20, score 80 goals in the National Hockey League, bring people out of their seats unlike anyone outside of maybe Dustin Byfuglien since the Winnipeg Jets have come back. And it would be an incredible redemption story, and I know the fans would be here for it. And if the team and the organization are and the player is, it could end up being truly one of the great stories in 2.0 history.
Yeah, 100%, Huss. Very well said. And it's been tough. I mean, he had his best season ever in 2017-18 as a 19-year-old. Since then, he's played 82. Well, he's played 82 games one time. However, there were a couple shortened seasons in there, and he's never scored more than 40 goals in a season. He struggled with injuries the last couple years. So, and there's been questions about his, commitment level to the game and, two-way game as well. So, we'll see what happens. It sounds like he's gonna be moving on. I'll give a shout out to Ezra Ginsburg, and Chad mentions Carolina as a possible destination. They have a lot of cap space, although they do have to sign Natchez and Seth Jarvis, so it's going to be eaten up by that. But they did lose Jake Gensel in free agency, who they did try to sign. Maybe they make a play, but I don't know if he fits with Carolina. But if you want a straight sniper who can score goals, then yeah, he would be your guy. So this line is another offseason watch. We got Perfetti contract watch. Rutger, Ehlers. We've still had an eye on him ever since the trade. It feels like Winnipeg's unofficial son.
I am excited to talk about this. I'm excited of the prospect. I know people were asking about, would he come here? I mean, reportedly, very high on on a potential opportunity to come back to Winnipeg. I think still, listen, the things that I think sort of led to his trade are very different now. You've got an unbelievable leader in Adam Lowry, a locker room and a culture that has completely changed over the last couple of years. And, and I think a lot of guys that do really like Patrick and care about him and would love to be a part of getting him back to where everyone knows that he can be. And that's, one of the most lethal players in the National Hockey League, and the ability to buy low, give a second chance to a guy that can help your team and put some butts in seats. I mean, I don't know. I don't see a lot of the downside, and I think it would be worth the risk, what risk there is if you can make it happen. But that's probably weeks away from clarity on that, as we just mentioned. They couldn't even talk about this while he was in the program. And let's not forget that Columbus has a brand new general manager, too, in Don Waddell, who I think is looking sort of for a clean slate moving forward. So I would imagine they'd love to figure this out sooner as opposed to later. We'll talk about it with Ken coming up a little bit later on in the program. We are going to start with the Olympic Games. Just before that, crazy game last night in the Canadian Football League. Saskatchewan, and we always love when the Riders lose, but as someone that took the Riders plus 3.5, up 13 at halftime, a third-string quarterback comes in and looks like the second coming of Doug Flutie. Davis Alexander with that incredible game. He went 12 for 12 on his first dozen passes, 2 touchdowns, 148 yards, completely flipped the game. And then the extra field goal, and the Alouettes actually cover the 3.5 and shut out the Riders in the second half. Bomber fans will be happy, though. Nice to see the Riders take one in the loss column. But a great game last night. CFL 110, the new episode, is up right now. Make sure to check that out on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube channel, or for you fans that want more CFL content, wherever you get Winnipeg Sports Talk Pod, throw in CFL 110 and subscribe there. CFL 110 brought to you by our friends over at Garage Living Winnipeg. Pat Kanuga, our pal's been getting plenty of interest from Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners about a garage renovation that will completely change your work and play space, and not to mention add value to your home. But they're booking jobs into September already right now. So if you are interested in finding out more on what's possible, or talking to Pat about what you might be able to do with your garage, give him a call today, 204-999-1234. And get working on a project, because Garage Living Winnipeg can help clear the clutter so you can have a clean, organized, gorgeous space to work and hang out. Maybe even have the buds over for the big game, and that can happen in just a few days. Specializing in durable polyaspartic floor coatings, premium made-in-Canada metal cabinets, slat wall, and overhead storage solutions for a functional garage that looks amazing and adds value to your home. Again, whether it's a single, double, triple, 10-car garage mahal, Pat can come up with a design to meet your needs within your budget. So give him a call, 204-999-1234 for a free in-garage consultation. If you want more, just check out their YouTube or their website at garageliving.com for more amazing examples of their work. Garage Living Winnipeg, garages made for living. And hey, exciting things happening with our pals at Rolly's Transfer. I had a great chat with our pal Ryan yesterday. They are busy right now. It is moving season, and Rolly's been doing it, family owned for over 60 years, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, and they've been given the white glove treatment to their customers on to their next move. If you do have a move coming up, check out their new website, rollies.com. They've got a request a quote feature. You just simply let them know where you're moving, when you're moving, and what you need to move, and they'll turn it around with a quick and very fair quote. And by the way, throwing a little bone to our WST listeners, if you're booking a move or requesting a quote, mention promo code WST for an exclusive discount on moving rates and moving supplies. So if you have those needs moving forward, just mention WST, a promo code, if you will, and they'll give you a special deal just for supporting us and using Rollies on your next move. Most trusted name in moving, 60 plus years, Rollies Transfer. Request a quote today or find out more online at rollies.com. Got to shout out our friends at Consolidated Supply. What a busy summer they've had right now. We've had a lot of water at times. And as being the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions, been helping out both residential and commercial customers on that. But there's so much more that Consolidated Supply as a leader in the golf industry. They've got artificial turf. You want to build that putting green in your backyard, or you're just sick of mowing the grass, they can help you with that. They're also the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. So new golf carts, used golf carts, parts, and all sorts of cool accessories to trick yours out of there. They've also got awesome hot tubs, amazing outdoor kitchen options, and other great things to spice up your home and your property. And of course, they are the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see Consolidated Supply today at their showroom, open to the public for everything that's going on there. 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at their website, cte.ca. And just before we talk Olympics, Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are ready for another big Manitoba weekend. If you have battery needs for your boat, your camper, an ATV, anything that you might be firing up on the weekend, Manitoba Battery has the batteries for it, and you'll get the best price in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores. They've got two locations now, the original location on Logan Avenue, the new location on the south end on Dovercourt Drive. Pop in and see them in person, or give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they will deliver your batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. For all your battery needs, make it Manitoba Battery. Shop local and get the best service in town. Find out more online at manitobabattery.com. All right, Wiebe coming up. I'm going to hit him with some Laine questions and more in the Jets off season. But right now, as we finish up the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games, let's get ready for Paris 2024 and welcome in Jesse Campigotto from CBC.
Jesse, thanks so much for jumping on. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. My brother actually lives in Winnipeg, and he's a fan of the show. So shout out to him, and shout out to you and Michael for having me on.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming on. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in Canada. I think if you're a sports fan, you'll love the Summer Olympics, and there's so much to get to, including a number of local athletes that we'll touch on of their competitions. But I will say, not the best start for our Canadian contingent in Paris, considering this mess regarding the women's soccer team that seems to be getting, well, it blows up. Every day it seems to implicate maybe someone more. And now the big news yesterday that Bev Priestman's on a plane back to Canada. I mean, what do you make of this mess?
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, like just to catch people up in case they haven't been following the story, which I believe is very few people at this point. But a couple of days ago, Priestman kind of voluntarily suspended herself for the first match yesterday. And team staff member and assistant coach were sent home after New Zealand complained about a drone over their practice. So what happened was they complained about it. The police arrested the staff member. His name was Joey Lombardi, because you're obviously not allowed to fly drones over Olympic airspace for a lot of good reasons. And he admitted that he was using the drones to spy on New Zealand. So those two were sent home. And the impression was kind of given at the time, though, that Priestman, while she disapproved of this stuff, wasn't involved in it. And then it turns out that's actually not the case, because last night it came out that she probably did have knowledge of this whole scheme. And now, yeah, like you said, they're sending her home. So yeah, it's just every day brings a new thing, and it is not a good way to start the Olympics this year.
And listen, I mean, I feel terrible for the women on the squad. I mean, I don't know how much any sort of this would really affect your performance on the field. I mean, if anything, there might be some unique preparation that the coaches have an advantage on. But I mean, these women in this group, they're the defending Olympic champions. And, through no fault of theirs, they're now probably public enemy number one in Paris when it comes to this competition. And, the more you hear about how long this sort of stuff has been going on, kind of a bit of a stain on some of the other achievements of this team that has done more for Canadian soccer than any group ever.
Yeah, for sure. Like they're saying now that the spine goes back to the 2021 Olympic team. The men's team might be involved in it as well. So yeah, I do feel bad for the players. And, there's kind of a lot of pearl clutching going on around it now. And in the media, people saying, this is really bad for Canada, and it, really makes us look bad. That's true for sure. You do not want your country being known for like these kind of shenanigans. But the whole thing strikes me as just kind of funny, and with how dumb it is. I mean, you're flying. Why would you fly a drone at the Olympics when the police have made a big point of saying they're going to crack down on this kind of stuff? So there's no chance you're going to get away with it. And for what? To spy on maybe the worst team in the tournament before a group stage game? It just seems so unnecessary. It's obviously like the ethical concerns are what they are, and it's not good there, but it just seems so dumb. And I find that kind of the most embarrassing thing about it.
Oh, I'm with you. I mean, and I have no idea. We'll, lean on some soccer experts to find out whether this is sort of widespread, amongst other teams. But I mean, to your point, showing up in Paris and, having the amateur hour operation to be popped for a drone going into the first training session against, as you mentioned, the team that you do not need drone footage to prepare for is sort of embarrassing. But I mean, I wonder, obviously the COC is probably not enjoying this start to the Olympics right now. I guess the delegation moves this on to investigation to Canadian soccer, but really has probably shaken up just the mood around the Canadian team going in. Not the best way to get things started off before the opening ceremonies even happen.
No, it's a terrible way to start things off. And I mean, so they went out and won the match yesterday against New Zealand. They went down 1-0. You could already kind of see the headlines like, Drone Gate sinks the Olympic champs and all that. And they battled back, and that was a nice win. But I mean, it's not super impressive to beat I think they're the 28th ranked team in the world, 2-1 in your first match. So, I mean, hopefully they can get things together and go on a run like last time. But the odds of this team doing that well in the tournament, even before Drone Gate, were kind of questionable. I understand I understand you're a betting man, Hustler, so I can tell you that I think they're about 8th in the betting odds to win the title, which I think some people might find surprising. That was going into the Olympics. That was before Jerome Yates. So, yeah, they were kind of on the bubble for a medal anyway, and now this is not helping.
No, there's no way. I think they were like plus 300, 3-1 or so to get onto the podium, but that had dropped actually. And, and listen, just to finish off this before we transition to the other teams, where we're really going to see how this is received is when Canada plays France coming up, because you'll have a hell of a lot more people than they did for the Canada-New Zealand game before the Olympics were officially even underway with the opening ceremonies. And now with this being one of the biggest stories of the game and the Canadians being the road team against the French, I think we're going to find out just how much this has been appreciated or not thereof by opposing fans. That'll be coming up. But we'll focus in on our women's team, and hopefully these women can sort of push through all the noise around them. There's a ton of excitement for this men's basketball, and we as Canadians will have the best talent we've ever had. We did a nice preview with Kirby Shep yesterday, but also in the group of death, and it gets going tomorrow with Canada's first game.
Yeah, so they're tipping off tomorrow at 3 p.m., and it's against Greece. So right off the bat, you're going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo, the two-time NBA MVP. So, yeah, that'll be a really nice test right off the bat. And a win there would certainly help maybe push the soccer stuff to the side a bit, which would be a good thing. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But the team's got a really good chance, I think, to medal. So Canada hasn't won an Olympic basketball medal since 1936, if you can believe it. So just to give you an idea of like how long ago that was, back then they used to play the games outside on clay tennis court. And the final against the U.S., I believe the score was something like 19-8 because it had rained that day and the court was muddy. So we're talking about basically the stone age of basketball here was the last time Canada won an Olympic basketball medal. Now, as far as this year, they're obviously not the favorites for gold. That's the U.S. They're big-time favorites. But in the betting odds, Canada's number 2 for gold. So they're in the mix with like France and some other teams. So that suggests to me that they have a really good chance of reaching the podium, which would be awesome. I mean, they haven't even been in the Olympics since 2000 when this is before Steve Nash was the leader of that team. He got him to the quarterfinals. This was before he even won his 2 NBA MVPs, which seems like a long time ago. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming, but SGA, Jamal Murray, so you've got the MVP runner-up, the second best guy on a title team from 2 years ago. That's a nice base, and then a roster full of pretty much all NBA players. So I like their chances. They look really good.
Yeah, Greece, Australia, and Spain in Canada's group, and then they'll move on, presumably, barring a disaster, to the quarterfinals, and you just hope that you can end up on the other side of the draw against the United States, because if Canada could get a shot at the Americans, a gold medal game, that probably would be, I'd imagine that would be right amongst the most viewed events, right there with the 100 meters, at least here in Canada.
Definitely. That's the dream matchup, I think, for everybody. So, and yeah, Canada would be huge underdogs in that game, but it would also be cool to see them just go toe-to-toe with them for a medal and see where we're at,
I mean, there's so much NBA talent, and that French team, of course, has Wembanyama, and they just had the NBA draft. 3 of the top 5 players were French. Now, I'm not sure they're putting 18-year-olds on the squad right now. They do have some other NBA talent, but from a Canadian perspective, this basketball scenario is unlike anything we've seen before, and you can buckle up and get in for Canada's first game tomorrow on Saturday against the Greek Freak and Giannis and Greece. Now, we'll get to track and field in a minute, but we're hearing a lot about, you're always kind of focused in on our best medal hopes. And it is a young woman, not even 18 years old yet, in Summer McIntosh, that if you were putting down a sprinkle on who'd be the most decorated Canadian Olympian, she would be at the top of the list. Tell us about this swimming phenom and what we can expect from her in the pool.
Oh yeah, I would do more than a sprinkle on her to be the most decorated Canadian at these Olympics. So yeah, so like you said, Summer's only 17 years old. She was actually in the Olympics in Tokyo as a 14-year-old, and she came fourth in the women's 400-meter freestyle. So she was like a fringe medal contender then. Since then, she's become one of the best swimmers in the world. And I would say, though she doesn't quite have the hardware to back it up yet, she's probably like the best swimmer Canada has ever produced in terms of talent, in terms of skill. So just to give you a quick preview of what you might see from her in the games, she's favored to win gold in two events. One of them, she's a huge favorite. That's the 400-meter individual medley. She's the world record holder. She won the world title in 2023. She's also a favorite, not quite as big, but still, fairly sizable favorite in the 200 butterfly. And then she's got two more individual events where she's definitely in the medal mix. So yeah, you're looking at a great chance for 2 golds, a great chance for 4 individual medals, and then she could be in up to 4 relays. So she probably won't end up doing them all. And obviously Canada probably won't win a medal on all those anyway, but you take those 4 solo events, maybe a couple relay medals, and you're looking at her having a great chance to beat Penny Alexiak's record from 2016 in Rio, which was 4 medals. That's a record for a Canadian at one Summer Olympics.
Jesse Campigotto of CBC. You can subscribe to the Buzzer. We'll give you details on that, how you can get up to date on your latest Olympic information each and every day throughout the event. Track and field is always marquee. 100 meters. Andre DeGrasse this afternoon carrying our flag at the opening ceremonies. He has been, really our top star in the biggest event. He'll be back there. What are the expectations of DeGrasse this year in comparison to? What does he have? 6. He's won medals in 6 different events over the course of his career.
Yes, it's pretty awesome actually. He's done 6 Olympic events in his career, and he's won a medal in all 6 of them. So that's the 100, 200, and 4x100. He's done a medal in all 3 of those at the last 2 Olympics. A highlight, obviously, being the 200-meter gold in 2016 in Tokyo. So I would say, he's getting a bit older now. He's 29. His times haven't been quite as good since Tokyo. He had a couple really tough years. It seems like he's at least back healthy now. So I think he does have he's looking better as a podium hopeful than he did, say, at last year's World Championships. Having said all that, the streak's probably going to end here. I wouldn't expect him to win a medal in all 3 again, but he'll be in the 100, he'll be in the 200, and I think his best chance is actually in the 4x100. That team, if you'll remember, won gold at the Worlds in 2022. They upset the U.S. Right in Oregon, right on their home track. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see him. And he's got, like you said, 6 medals. So that's 1 shy of Penny Alexiak's all-time record for any Canadian Olympian, summer or winter. That's 7. So he has a chance to tie her.
What about Damian Warner? You kind of burst onto the scene, winning the gold medal in the decathlon last time out. What are his chances to defend his championship?
Yeah, well, looking a lot better now. Unfortunately, though, one of the reasons is that Pierce Lepage, who's another Canadian, he actually beat Warner for the gold at last year's Worlds. Warner got the silver. So it was kind of looking like a battle for kind of 1-2 with the Canadians. Lepage has a back injury, though. He pulled out of the Olympics. So, yeah, that makes Warner the favorite, I'd say. And another guy, Kevin Maillet of France, who's the world record holder, he fell over a hurdle at a meet recently a couple weeks ago, hurt his hamstring. He's still planning to compete, but we'll see what kind of shape he's in. But yeah, Warner's got a good chance to repeat for sure.
Staying in track and field, we're apparently a hammer nation. Both men's and women's side were sort of favored to potentially get to the podium, top of the podium.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite things. So Canada hasn't won a hammer throw medal at the Olympics in 112 years. And now all of a sudden we have the reigning women's and men's world champions. So men's, that's, Ethan Katzberg, he kind of came out of nowhere last year at the Worlds, but it wasn't a fluke. He's got, I think, the four or five best throws in the world this year. So he's a big time favorite to win gold there. And then Cameron Rogers, she won gold at the World Championships last year as well. She's the favorite in the women's event too. So we might be going double hammer gold.
Hey, one other track and field athlete I wanted to ask you about is the 800-meter runner, Marco Arop. Has had some incredible performances in the past, but maybe at this point not favored to win gold.
Yeah, so he won gold at the Worlds last year, and he's had like a really nice steady build since Tokyo. He kind of went out a little too hard in the early rounds there and kind of flamed out. Really went back to the grind, like really got back to work. Culminated in that gold medal last year. So he was kind of looking like the favorite for a long time, but just in the last few weeks, his competition has just like gone bonkers. I don't know what happened, but everyone suddenly seemed to get really, really fast and set like world leading times. So his main rival from Algeria actually won a Diamond League race with the best time in the world of the year, and then did the same thing the week after, and Arop came sixth in that race. So, I mean, he's smart. He's been around now. He knows not to peak at a Diamond League meet in early July in an Olympic year. So it, I wouldn't read too much into that performance, but he's going to have to step it up because the competition in that race is really, really fierce. And I think that's actually going to be one of the best races in the Olympics.
Jesse, let's talk about some of our Manitoban athletes that are taking part in the Olympic Games. And a guy that, comes on with us regularly. We've been following his journey. Tyler Mizlachuk in the triathlon, coming back from a bit of an injury. It's been an up and down season for him, but those triathletes are wired and built different. I can't wait to see what he can do in this event. And tell us about the event overall as it pertains to the Paris Games, including a dip in the Seine, from what I hear.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy what they've done with the river. So it's like notorious for being polluted. So one of the big projects around the Olympics was to clean it up and actually have some events in there. So they're going to be doing, obviously, the swimming legs of the triathlon and then the marathon open water swimming. So they're like the big 10K long races. They're going to be doing them in there. And it really came down to the wire. Like the mayor of Paris kept promising she'd do a dip in the river to prove that it was clean. And she kept putting it off until about a couple of weeks ago. She went in with a bunch of people. They swam around. They say it's clean. Good luck to Tyler, because I'm not sure I would want to jump in there myself.
When is the triathlon?
Oh, you know what? It is. Yeah, I do know. It's July 30th. So just a few days from now. Not sure if that's the men's or the women's, but they're back-to-back days anyway. So it's not the 30th.
So week one of the competition will be cheering on Tyler. Kelsey Wog, swimmer, has had an incredible, university career here in Canada, now an Olympian, along with Skylar Park, who has really turned into one of the top taekwondo athletes.
Yeah, they're back, and they're, I would say, not medal contenders, but certainly should at least put up like a pretty good showing. I actually looked up wanted to get the whole complete list of Winnipeg athletes for you guys. So there's also Luke Kerr in men's volleyball, Shayla Roche, she's in women's water polo, and Desiree Scott was just called up to be an alternate on the women's soccer team.
Yeah, they're going to need Des around that crew. She is the ultimate vibes person, and it was disappointing she wasn't on the squad. Considering everything that's happening around the team, I think they're probably very lucky they've got a veteran voice and someone that's just such an upbeat person to get our women through this. Jesse, listen, it's wall to wall at CBC right now for the Olympic Games coverage, but fill people in on what you're doing throughout the Olympics and how people can maybe effectively and efficiently figure out what the heck is going on and plan their viewing for the next day.
Yeah, for sure. So I write the Buzzer. That's our daily sports newsletter. So I do it year round and usually cover a wide variety of sports, pro, Olympic, amateur, whatever. During the Olympics, it's going to be purely devoted to the game. So It's going to be 7 days a week. It's going to hit your inbox kind of late afternoon, early evening. It'll include like a recap of all the stuff you need to know from that day, all the important stuff. And then I think the best thing I offer is sort of a viewing guide to the following day. So I'll let you know for the day coming up, which will be starting early the next morning, exactly who to watch, when to watch, with exact times and everything, so you don't miss anything. I just find that, people get really into the Olympics when they're on, but to be honest, most people don't follow a lot of these sports year round. I do, so I'm going to help point everybody in the right direction every day. So, if you just Google the buzzer CBC, sign up page will come up, put your email address in, you'll start getting the newsletters.
Jesse, this has been awesome. I'm even more fired up to get things going now after this conversation. What to look for? What are the highlights of this weekend? We've mentioned Canada's first game in the men's basketball. What else should we be looking for on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, so we talked about the importance of kind of washing away all the soccer stuff, and the men's basketball team helping us kind of do that tomorrow around 3 Eastern. So Summer McIntosh is actually also swimming at around that same time. So I believe the final is just before 3, and that's the women's 400 meter freestyle, which a lot of swimming experts are calling probably the best race of the entire Olympics. So it's Summer against, I think most people will remember Katie Ledecky from the United States. She's won a boatload of Olympic medals. And Arian Titmus from Australia, who's the reigning Olympic champ and the world record holder. So those two are going to go head to head. Summer's going to have her hands full getting onto the podium and certainly getting gold in that one. And then about a half hour later, there's a relay race that she might be in. So you might be getting a double Summer medal day, which I think right now is much needed. So I love the timing there.
Summer McIntosh, our men's hoopers, they can be the deodorant for Team Canada as we begin this Olympic journey. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. Again, folks, it's CBC, the buzzer. Google it, get on the sign-up list, and get it in your inbox every day to keep you up to date on everything going on in Paris at the Olympic Games. Jesse, thanks so much for doing this. It was great to have you on the program.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good stuff from Jesse. Yeah, subscribe to the newsletter. Be a nice little primer for the Olympic events and action underway. And by the way, I've just been paying attention to this opening ceremonies. I have to go back and actually watch the whole thing again. It is an absolutely stunning production. I know the trains got hacked, so there's been some mess of people trying to get there, but holy smokes, did they pull off an all-time opening ceremonies out in Paris. Ken Wiebe's going to join us in a few minutes. We'll also have Ed Tait at the bottom of the hour coming up and get into a little Bomber talk with the big game tomorrow night against the Toronto Argonauts. All of our Bomber reports brought to you by Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll be back at Princess Auto Stadium next Thursday for the British Columbia Lions visit. So a real short turnaround for the Bombers with 2 tough games on the schedule. Don't forget Princess Auto Tailgate Zone. It gets going 2 hours before game time with $5 beers, $3.50 hot dogs and pop. Inflatables for the kids, entertainment. It is the place to be before every game. And of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365. Well, the weekend is here, and you know what that means. Stock up on all your favorites, including the official Spirit of the Bombers Canadian Club. And I was talking to our pal James at Canadian Club at Super Spike on the weekend. And in addition to Canadian Club, I think we might need some Hornitos, because we will continue to toast monster field goals from our guy Sergio Castillo with his beverage of choice. That, of course, is tequila. You can pick up Hornitos along with Canadian Club and all their family of products at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And both are available at Princess Auto Stadium, as Canadian Club's the official Spirit of the Bombers. And don't forget Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, amazing summer drink. premixed cocktail in cans available at your local beer vendor as well on your next trip to it. I have to thank Wallace & Wallace for their amazing support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You want to talk about a busy summer. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city right now. Hey, they've been the experts in the game since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's done a number on your old one, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a garage door, they also have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. 204-452-2700 is the number. Give them a ring. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com or pop down and see them at their showroom on Lawson Crescent, open to the public just off of Kenaston. And hey, should be a great weekend. Congratulations to anyone that's tying the knot this weekend, as we are right in the middle of wedding season. If you're heading to the wedding and realize when you get into the closet you need to up your menswear game, get on over to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Big shirt sale on right now, actually. 25% off any purchase of 3 shirts. And of course, they've got that 15% discount for wedding parties. So if you're having a wedding or in a wedding party, talk to the guys at F about that discount when you and the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. They're down at 190 Smith Street. Make an appointment for a fitting or find out more online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right. In the burnt orange of the Texas Longhorns, Kenny Wiebe joins us now. Weber, what's up, pal?
Great to be with you, Andrew. Happy Friday to you. Yeah, lots of hook 'em signs out in Vegas when we were there for the draft. So I figured we would bring it out for the Friday buffet action here. So hope you've had a great week so far.
Yeah, this week, I'll be honest, and last week I memorably thought that it was Wednesday on Tuesday, and I did not have a very good grasp of what day of the week it is. This week, I mean, I know it's Friday and I've got that Friday feeling, but it just seemed like it whipped by. I don't know whether it was last weekend was so busy with Super Spike and the comedy festival or what, but we're here and we're getting ready for the weekend. And just before we talk some Jet stuff and Bombers, were you at Rossmere for the final round of the AM this week?
Yeah, I caught the last 5 or 6 holes for Braxton Kuntz's
crazy drama,
memorable event. Yeah, buddy, it was a back and forth tour d'affaire. Some great golf shots, some just beautifully executed golf, and a couple breaks here and there. And Drew Jones of Shiloh played an outstanding round. Kind of went toe to toe with Braxton there and had the lead, and caught himself a break on the 16th hole. Looked like he was maybe headed to the trees, and his ball ended up scooting down the cart path. He made a birdie on 16, but then on 17, he did not have a good break. Driver down the left into the trees, had to take a drop, over the trees, made himself, then got himself short-sided himself on his approach, and then 3-putted to compound matters for a triple. And Braxton was driver down the middle and scrambled a little bit for his par, but it was just a big swing. Drew Jones was up by 3 or by 1 shot at the time, and gave up 3 on that hole. And just incredible run for both players. But I mean, Braxton to win 4 consecutive years and
never been done before.
Not by a man and not by a male player, right? Marge Hominuk did it, I think, in the 60s, I want to say, but incredible. And again, on that front, Huss, I mean, Todd Fanning, a guy who Braxton had tied the year previous with the 3 in a row, was on hand and walking around for the round. I walked with him for a few holes and had some great golf chatter there. And one of the first people to congratulate him was the guy he passed on the consecutives, but I think Todd still has him in the total, I think, right? Wasn't that the way that it worked? So
the fan matters a legend, but Braxton, well, the funny thing is
unreal job by Braxton.
He might not have the opportunity to catch because from the sounds of it, he'll be going back to Ball State and then I think given a crack at a pro career afterwards.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And I mean, we know that Manitoba has Aaron Cockrell out there waving the flag and the banner for not only for Canada, but for our province here. Be great for Braxton to get an opportunity, to turn pro, and had an opportunity to play with him at the Golf Manitoba Media Day at Rossmere earlier this year, Huss. And man, What a player. Hits the ball really. He certainly had me he's had me swinging a little bit harder than normal, and that led to a few wayward drives, and as it turns out I didn't
Gotta play your own game, Ken.
yeah,
Gotta
exactly.
play your own
But
game.
man, I loved watching him attack the golf course, and yeah, no surprise to see the way that he played. And great job by the folks at Rossmere. Course was looking good, and great gallery too. Huss on the afternoon there, and it was Wednesday afternoon. Great gallery. Some folks were on hand to see the historical films kind of moment, and just such a gracious winner, Braxton. Mike McIntyre wrote the story for the paper, but I'm glad I was able to be there, witness history, and again, great duel on the head-to-head there with those two players, and a ton of great performances throughout. And on that front too, Huss, I mean, Addison Cartouche, I want to mention her too. What a great week on the Manitoba golf front. I think finishing in third place at the Canadian Junior Women's there yesterday as well, out in Marine Drive in Vancouver. I think she's going to be playing in the Women's Amateur coming up this week as well. But and the team, team performance by Manitoba there also, Huss, pretty impressive on job on that front. But beautiful time. The tours in full swing. Had a chance to get out to Nipawa this week, and had a chance to Oak Island previously, out in the Westman region, and we try to get out when we can, because soon we will be transitioning over to hockey, and the rounds will be not as plentiful, Huss. So
let's transition to hockey right now.
Sure.
I talked about it earlier on the program. Patrick Laine is officially out of the NHL and NHLPA player assistance program, which is great news for him personally.
Yep.
Am I nuts for thinking that a reunion with the Winnipeg Jets might be great for both the player and the team? Where are you on all of that? Is this just a pie in the sky crazy idea that I'm talking about right now? Or could there have some legs to this, considering what he's been through and what he would bring to the table if he was back in a Jet jersey at some point?
Well, Huss, I mean, I know it's certainly a topic that has Twitter aflutter today. And again, it's not totally pie in the sky thinking, no doubt. There was some buzz around the draft already, Huss, that maybe that was maybe potential of one of the preferred destinations if there's a trade that happens. Again, secondhand information, but it wouldn't be a surprise if we want to go through the chronology of events here. I mean, you had a very good marriage early on. Things got a little bit rocky when it came to negotiations. A young player with a lot of confidence, a strong-minded player, wanted to get paid big dollars and decided he wanted to get paid those big dollars elsewhere. Things didn't transpire exactly the way that he wanted out in Columbus, and the guy he was traded for didn't work out perfectly for him either, as it turns out. And both of them, one of them has a second address, and the other one is searching for the next one. So for me, Huss, this isn't just a nostalgic type of scenario here. It would make sense if you're Patrick Laine now at the age that he is at, with 2 years remaining on his deal. Would it make sense to me that he would like to recapture some of that magic in a place where he played his best hockey? I know there's some folks who make the argument that his best hockey was, he was around a point a game player with Columbus before he was hurt, but his best hockey was here. He was known as a generational goal scorer. I think it was 110 goals in 3 years, including the 44 snipes as a sophomore player, as a 19-year-old. So would it make sense that you would like to rekindle some of that magic? It's where, we know how much fire and passion for the game Patrick has from being around him, Andrew. And I know that, he was a guy who was very self-deprecating at times, but make no mistake, the guy loved being around here. Winnipeg is good. I'm sure somebody still got a box of T-shirts somewhere, Huss, in a storage area somewhere that they would love to break out and maybe have a chance to help the personal economy. But honestly, it would be something that makes sense. But let's also not forget how complicated a deal of that magnitude would be given the numbers that are involved. The 8.75 is primarily what we're talking about here, right? So could the Jets afford it if they got it down to 6 even? I mean, preferably 5, but maybe 6. Well, sure. But there's got to be money moving out, even if there is some level of retention. And now you're going to get into the tug of war of, the Blue Jackets are saying they want to trade Patrick at his point per game rate, and other teams are saying, well, no, we're not quite sure what we're getting, so we're not giving you a top prospect and a first rounder. So the negotiation phase with Don Waddell will be interesting. But as my pal Elliot Friedman is reporting, Columbus has given the green light for teams that are interested to sort of start sniffing around here. So, and also important to remember in Elliot's report today that Patrick has been cleared from the program, which is, as you mentioned, tremendous news. But he is still recovering and working his way back from a shoulder surgery. Yeah, so that complicates matters as well. But I mean, hey. I've seen the tweets, Huss. I've seen the stick twirls, and hey, as someone who enjoyed when Patrick filled the notebook, hey, it would be an amazing story. Is it going to have the storybook ending? That I'm not certain about. But what I can tell you is this: when Patrick is in a good place mentally and physically, he's a dominant force. I mean, I know I see a lot of tweets about one-dimensional player. I mean, hey. When you lose your way, sometimes things aren't going as smoothly. Like there have been plenty of times. Again, I'm not out here to say Patrick Laine is going to become Alex Ovechkin and chase the record for goals, but this is a guy who is in a 6'5" frame and occasionally wasn't afraid to use it. Could he have used it more often? Sure. Is he going to be a Selke candidate? No. But this is a guy who immediately makes any power play that he's on better. 30-plus tucks is not an easy thing to do in the NHL, Huss, at any time. So could I see an argument for the Jets having some interest? Of course, but a lot of things would have to fall into place. And again, it was one of the mailbag questions Mike McIntyre and I are attacking for the Free Press in the article that's going to go up Sunday. So I'd be curious to see what the Coolbet Lines would be saying, Andrew, but again, I'm not here to.
It depends who's setting the line. Is
Exactly.
it the people in our chat right now, or the people in my inbox, or maybe some other people? Like, I'll just make the argument that you can look at any possible landing spot for Patrick.
Yeah, of course.
With what he's been through over the last couple of years, with his history, with where he's at right now, I think it makes a ton of sense for him. And listen, we have heard that he is high on that idea. If that is the case, you've got someone that is willing and wanting to get back into the organization. Listen, I think it's quite clear that in a lot of ways, this entire ordeal has probably changed him in somewhat. I imagine it's been humbling. And I also think that, he's going to be a guy that comes back with an incredible desire to reestablish himself as a star in the National Hockey League. And if you're able to, for all intents and purposes, buy low on a guy like that, with 2 years left on the contract, never mind what it would do to the fan base. And I think as far as putting a few more asses in seats, like I think there's huge benefits on both sides to maybe going down on that road. Now, to your point, you're exactly right. I mean, this is a hard cap world. There are some things. I mean, the Jets are probably in a better position than a lot of other teams to actually consider it. But there's a lot to be gained for both. And if it actually worked out positively, I mean, never mind the redemption story, which would be incredible. I think you're maybe setting up an opportunity to keep a guy like that here beyond the 2 years. That's something that makes sense for him because you've kind of had that the grass isn't always greener experience somewhere else. And I joked earlier today and earlier on the other shows, like if I'm Davis Payne, I'm like, this guy would look pretty good on that PP1 unit. I mean, they haven't had a shot like his since he and Buffalo left town.
Right.
And listen, I mean, it would be for the most part, an incredibly popular move. But there is risk involved. But again, we're talking about somewhat buying low. You're not taking on a 6 or 7 year contract like the Caps did with Dubois. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I think this should be something that, the organization strongly considers and tries to make happen.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to cost of acquisition for me, Huss. But yeah, I mean, Patrick loved it here. He was beloved here and continues to be beloved here. And he would be, absolutely everything that you said about for a team that's trying to generate positive, interest and selling season tickets, etc. But they wouldn't be doing it just for that. They would be doing it because they think that Patrick could, get back to the player that he was previously. And of course he'd be a weapon, but again, where would he fit? Who would he play with? I mean, what would it mean for Nikolai Ehlers? We got all kinds of different things. The tentacles on this scenario are kind of endless, but of course it should be something that is discussed. Is it a front burner issue? I mean, that only Kevin Cheveldayoff and his folks in the upper brass and management know for sure. What we also know, Huss, is this. I think you mentioned the player portion. I think that if the Jets are being honest with themselves, I'm guessing they wish that there were some things they had handled differently when it comes to the Patrick Laine situation.
Absolutely.
So I think when there is an opportunity, for growth on both sides, I would see why, potentially trying to have a reunion and getting back together would make sense, not just for the player and not just for the organization, but for both sides and what they could get out of it together. Now, again, are we just thinking this is perfect world, a Hollywood script type of situation? No, I mean, this is legit. The guy came here as an 18-year-old, left in his early 20s, and then kind of probably thought, oh man, what did I leave behind, right? I mean, but again, live and learn, personal growth, organizational growth, all of these things. I mean, I don't think there are a ton of impediments outside of trying to make the money work and massaging it on that front. And because the cap is going up, it's a little bit easier to maneuver. But Huss, if there's not going to be a lot of retention, and from the reports that we've been hearing, now again, at the start of the negotiation, of course they don't want there to be a lot of retention. San Jose didn't want a lot of retention on Erik Karlsson either at the beginning, but at the end there was some retention. Now, if you can get the number to a manageable place, man, of course you'd be considering Patrick Laine, whether it's a top line spot or a second. Again, you could almost go to a 1A and 1B type of situation. Now, does Patrick fit a speed game and a defensive game like the Jets are playing? No, but not every player has to fit into the cookie cutter mold. This would be a guy that can help on a lot of fronts. And again, I think that as wild as it may be to suggest, I mean, I think that at his age, Huss, Patrick Laine can still play some of his best hockey. It can be ahead of him. It doesn't have to only be behind him. And we know how great the years behind him were. So there's a level he needs to get back to. He's got to get healthy. He's had some terrible luck when it came to injuries in the last couple of years. There were seasons when he got off to a tremendous start and it didn't work out. But, I mean, again, in terms of exploring the possibilities, I mean, I'd be shocked if the Jets haven't already explored the possibility and would be definitely keeping that sort of thing under wraps. But, of course, they have to be at least considering it. And from where it goes from here, I mean, is anybody's guess. But it certainly has given us something to talk about during what is historically a very quiet time on the calendar, right?
And listen, and the fact, I mean, nothing was going to happen until he was out of the program. And now we can sort of legitimately have these conversations because it has been widely reported that both Columbus and Laine's camp are looking for a fresh start. We've heard reportedly that, maybe the cost isn't that high. I mean, in and around a mid, it's going to depend on a lot on what the salary, if you're asking a team to retain 50%, well, the cost is going to be significantly more, I would say. Is there a possibility, I look at the Jets cap situation right now.
Sure.
And, it is a lot tighter for this upcoming season than it is the following season when you've got the likes of Iafallo coming off the books, Pionk coming off the books, Nemetsnikov, Appleton. They've got more wiggle room at that point. Could you see a scenario where maybe Columbus isn't retaining necessarily a percentage of the salary, but Laine would come to Winnipeg and in return, pick one of those players, Iafallo, Pionk, somebody that has a relatively significant cap hit for this season, but is not on the books next year for Columbus. I mean, is that the way a deal like that could potentially be put together?
Well, it certainly would be. Again, it has to, money in and money out. If that's the way it's going to be, it's got to include one of those players that you mentioned, Huss, right? Otherwise, you can't get the money to be close enough to make it work, or else there's got to be, a Cole Sillinger. We've talked about Cole Sillinger in the Rutgers sweepstakes earlier on, right? You got a player on a sort of a more manageable salary on the way back in. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to be creative about this for sure. And again, if you're Don Waddell, again, if this was a 5-year deal, then yes, that would be more palatable, or that would be more of an option. But you're right. I mean, for a team that's trying to be on the uprise, they would love to have guys that are true pros like an Iafallo or a Neil Pionk to help bring along some of their younger players, I think. So that all makes sense to me. I mean, especially with Dean Evison, Huss. I mean, Dean Evison would know Neil Pionk very well. And, Columbus's defense is kind of in transition. I mean, David Juracek is going to be on the team this year. Denton Matejchuk will be pushing for a job. So a veteran like that to work along Zach Werenski, I think would be a great idea for them. But again, there's lots of things that we don't know about what would be offered and what is on the table. I mean, if you're, again, I'm not saying this is a
I'm
good.
just looking at scenarios that could work. Like,
God,
because,
you
again,
have to. Huss, I've thought of the same thing. I mean,
yeah,
for sure, there's got to. I mean, if you're taking 8.75 in, then yes, you're moving out. If it's just for the sake of conversation, if it's Pionk and Iafallo, that's almost $10 million going out. So, but you'd probably want or need to have something coming back the other way, which is why I mentioned someone like Sillinger. And again, now if you're going even bigger, what about, we've talked about Columbus as a great fit for Rutger. So all of a sudden now the deal becomes now it's a 5-player special, right? So again, I'm not saying that is going to work for either side, but I definitely could see a pathway for there to be a deal that's, not, maybe it's just Laine, but there's potential for there to be other things that are massive there because of what we mentioned already for Munshus, the relationship that McGroarty has with Gavin Brindley and Adam Fantilli, that is also undeniable. So, and again, this isn't just a teams trading their problems situation like it was when it was Dubois, Laine, and Roslovic, but there is a scenario that could easily make sense on both sides that Huss could make both teams better in some regards for where their current programs are at. So, hey, I'm here for the discussion. And again, this isn't just pie in the sky kind of, fantasy world kind of stuff, because there's a legitimate path for both of those, for it to make sense for both sides. Now, again, is it front burner? I don't think so, but that could sure change after one phone call, Huss, right? I mean, that's the
phone calls are starting today.
About.
The phone calls are starting today, and that's why we're talking about it right now. I mean, listen, I've talked about this on the show before, and there was some romanticizing of the idea. However, I have talked myself into it, and just listening to you, Remo, get the Laine Watch graphic made up. I think we're going to be able to, we'll have some fun talking about the possibilities of this and staying on top of the situation over the course of the next month or so as we get closer. Moving off of the juiciest topic, we've spent a lot of time discussing what Cole Perfetti's next contract may look like. And then some people have been very adamant this is going to be a bridge deal. I'm actually on the other side. The more I think about it, think that it makes sense for both sides to not necessarily go 8 years, but potentially something like 6, where he gets a bump up here, you buy a couple years of free agency, and Perfetti then hits the UFA market in and around 28, which is certainly advantageous for his perspective as opposed to 30 or 31. If you had to guess right now, is it 2 years or is it longer? And have you heard anything more about where things are at between the two sides?
Yeah, I know the debate has kind of been picking up steam, Huss. I haven't really changed my viewpoint. I mean, I could see why it would make sense. I certainly could see why it makes sense for the Jets. I certainly could see the security aspect for Perfetti. But again, I'm still on Team Bridge as it pertains to right now. I just think that as a player, and again, I know this for a fact. I talked about it with Scott Arneal when I spoke with him at the draft in Vegas. He views Cole Perfetti as an important piece, and he plans to use him in the top 6, and that is going to be music to the ears of the player. But I'm not calling it blind faith, but are you as a player, I just think there's going to be a tendency to, yes, you appreciate the words, but you may want to see the actions before you're signing up for 5 or 6 years. At the same time, We know Cole enjoys it here. And yes, were there frustrating points of last season? Of course. But it wasn't to the point where Cole's going home and slamming the door and saying, as soon as I can get out of here, I'm out of here. Like that's not the way that Cole conducts his own personal business. I think it would have fueled him for the summer of training, which I assume will be going very well with Matt Nickel in Toronto. But again, I still think it's more likely to be in that bridge scenario, whether it's 3.25 or 3.75. I mean, that to me is, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but because again, we know he missed out on the bonus, but that's neither here nor there. Right? Cole's going to be paid handsomely next year, Huss, whether it's in the $3 million range or in the $5.5 or $6 million range. I mean, that remains to be seen. And as you mentioned, I mean, at the end of the day, when we're talking about the dollars and cents over the course of the deal, it's not as vast a gulf as it may appear by saying, oh, well, just take a bridge and then cash in later. You still have to do a lot of cashing in order to cash in later, and it may not even happen until the contract afterward, right? So for a player, again, of course, teams are trying to buy prime years, and those prime years are not necessarily, for some players, they're still in the 30s, but for most players, the prime years are in the 20s. So if you're Cole, your prime years are just about to begin. As crazy as that sounds, he just finished his first full season in terms of 71 games compared to 55. But at the same time, like, he's moving into that earning potential stage where you want to make the right decision for yourself in the short and the longer term. So I just think too, Huss, the other reason why I say as a player for Cole, you would lean towards bridge right now. And again, I'm not saying we're talking about NBA jumps in money here, Huss, but in terms of the way the cap is moving up and HRR and all of those things and paying back the money owed and everything else, there may be a benefit going to 2 years because the cap may look so much different in 2 years than it does now, that even with the benefit of a projection to a 5.5 or 6, it could be there could be another significant leveling up period after that time. And again, that assumes that Perfetti becomes a 30-80 guy right away. And he definitely has the ability to do so. But it usually takes a while for players to get in that situation. And then never mind what we just finished talking about. If Patrick Laine is on PP1, well, is there room for Cole Perfetti on PP1? So, I mean, that's another piece of the puzzle that is, like I said, that's another one of the tentacles right now.
That's why they need to get Cole done on a 6-year deal, because I don't want to be in the situation where they have to extend both Perfetti and Laine 2 years from now to stay in Winnipeg long term.
Well, Andrew, again, you're definitely having conversations that would be happening in the upper management side of things, but that's what I mean. It just, to me, there's too much uncertainty to go long term. I'm just trying to put myself into Cole Perfetti's shoes. Again, can I easily make the argument that it makes sense to lock up long term? You love it here, all those things. There's a pathway to being on the first line and the first power play at some point. Of course, that makes sense. But at the same time, there's still the show me side of the element. And again, I'm not just saying the Jets need to show Cole the love. Cole needs to show the Jets that he can have another 75, 80 game season. And if he plays to his capability and doesn't have a extended drought that lasted a quarter of a season, this guy can be an absolute dominant force. And then again, now we're talking again about how much of a steal Cole was at 10th overall, right? But it's still very early in the process. And again, I think, like I said before, Scott Arniel fully believes in Cole Perfetti, and I think Cole Perfetti believes in Scott Arniel's vision for him. Now, what that means when you're signing on the dotted line, that I'm not certain about yet. But I do think that it's a relationship that is still in the formative stages, but is going to be a long and lasting one, whether that's on this contract or the next one.
Hey, yeah, I mean, listen, if we're talking the difference between 3.5 for 2 years on a bridge, and let's just call it 6 by 6.
Sure.
That's $5 million that you're leaving on, that you're not getting paid in the next 2 years, that you need to make it up. So essentially you're talking about, for the 4 years, an extra $1.25 million. So all of a sudden then the expectation is that you're looking at 7.25 on those other years. Not to mention, if that deal extends more than 4 years, which I think the Jets would want to.
Of course.
And you're talking about taking you into 29, 30, 31. To me, that 6-year deal makes so much sense because, again, 28 is not too old to get another big long-term deal that sets you up. And as we've seen before, particularly last year with like Mark Scheifele, Connor Hellebuck, signing those deals at 30, 31 years old is significantly different, at least in the eyes of NHL GMs right now, than 28 years old. So there's a lot to it. Hey, just before we go, I see the Jets have just thrown out a signing. Simon Lundmark signs a 1-year deal. Daniel Fink throwing out 188 games under his belt with the Moose. During those 3 seasons, 48 points from Dan. Took a big step with more responsibility on the AHL club's blue line last season, 17 points in 67 games. Not a guy that we've talked a lot about, but has been a big part of the Moose for a while. And when I think about Lundmark, Ken, there's always a guy or two that, is not the first-round pick or the second-round pick that we spend so much time talking about that sort of finds themselves an opportunity and makes the most of it. Just interesting that he got the deal done today. He'll be part of it. And, this is another guy that, will be given a chance to go in and, maybe barge into the conversation as a depth option for the Winnipeg Jets on call-ups from the Moose.
Yeah, Huss, I mean, he's an interesting guy. Like a higher round draft pick than you expect, but mobile puck mover. Hasn't really, he's on the periphery of the discussions, but yeah, this is, if you're Simon Lundmark, Huss, this is a year you have to force yourself into the discussion for the, first or second call-up kind of thing that was Kyle Capobianco's last year. Not an eye-popping guy for offensive numbers, but a really smart mobile player. And yeah, I mean, could he work his way into the mix? Of course, but we've always talked about the right side. There's more opportunity on the right side, but again, he's going to have to outplay the likes of Hayden Fleury and some of these other guys as well. Again, but he's taken on a larger role and responsibility, and that's exactly what you need to do if you're a player in his shoes. I mean, if you want a chance, you got to basically steal a job from somebody who's above you on the depth chart, and that will be the next challenge for Simon Lundmark. And again, I need to see him. I need to see him a little bit more before I'm ready to say he's ready for that kind of job. And now he's going to have more competition from fellow Swede Elias Salomonson. But again, he's put himself into the equation, and that's what you want to do as a player.
Kenny, have an awesome weekend, pal. Thanks for doing this, and I'll look forward to talking to you next week. Wonder what I'll be looking for updates on. Have a good one.
No doubt. Well, you'll be maybe looking for some Rasheed Bailey updates from Edward here in the next block.
Homecoming. Why not question of the day? Who gets here first? Rasheed Bailey or Patrick Laine? Let us know in the comments.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Great to be with you, my man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. And of course, shout out to our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. You can actually throw that in. If it was one or the other coming back, who are you bringing back? Patrick Laine, Rasheed Bailey. I want to have my cake and eat it too and have both of them, to be perfectly honest with you. Ed Tait's going to join us right away. Hey, the weekend is here. It's Friday, and that means it's time to crack a couple cold little brown jugs later on after the show. Let's raise a glass to the weekend with generic lager, your basic lager, just better. Little Brown Jug made the taste you crave with the name that says it all. With this impressively standard lager, whether you're at a Jets game, a Gold Eyes game, or watching from home, grab a cold one and cheers. You can pick up generic lager and all the incredible Little Brown Jug beers in the Exchange District at 335 William Avenue. Check out their patio as well. Your local LC or vendor, and of course available at Canada Life Center and down at Blue Cross Park as well. Shout out to our friends. Beer Can's going to be rocking this weekend, and Next Door as well. And Remis was actually at Next Door last night for a little gathering, crushing some wings on that wing cart and all the great food they've got there right in the heart of Wolseley. If you haven't checked it out, Next Door, amazing spot right beside, next door, as it were, to Good Neighbor Brewing, 116. And of course, the Cosmos boys are handling the kitchen at Next Door and at the Beer Can and serving up the biggest, baddest, wildest sandwiches in town at Hoagie Boys over on South Osborne, open 7 days a week. We might be having some Bomber fans popping down to Royal Sports and getting an 88 sometime soon. Dare to dream. We're going to get to that with Ed right away. But if you do need Bomber gear, Jets gear, your favorite NFL team or more, Royal Sports has it all for you. The biggest and best selection of licensed merchandise literally anywhere. And with another great summer weekend coming up, pop by, check out their disc golf, their Yeti section, soccer, softball, tennis, running, bikes, and more. It's all there at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Insta at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And a big sports weekend gets going. Of course, Bombers tomorrow night. I know my pal. By the way, happy birthday to my wrestling commentating partner, Dave Patrician. His birthday this weekend. I know they're all getting together at BP City Place for the game. Whenever you want to get together with your gang for the Bombers or any other big sporting event, make it Boston Pizza, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's head to Toronto right now and welcome in Ed Tait from bluebombers.com to look ahead to a big one for the Bombers tomorrow at BMO versus the Argos. Edward, thanks so much for doing this. How was the trip out?
It was fantastic. We're here in the center of the universe, and the big smoke. It's the center of the universe. It feels big.
Well, a big game for the Bombers. The Montreal Alouettes did them a bit of a favor yesterday with that big comeback win against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But right now, the Bombers, I don't think, are spending too much time looking at the top of the Western Division. It's looking at their next opponent and getting a win and getting to 3-5 on the year. Now, before we talk about tomorrow's game, you heard me mentioning with Ken, Rasheed Bailey, kind of a surprising release. She had been having a real good season and sort of the victim of numbers in the roster. Naturally, everyone thought, myself included, sign this guy. Heck, start him on Saturday. You could literally plop him right in. What are you hearing about Rasheed Bailey? I would imagine there would be interest from the Bombers considering the injuries they've already suffered at that position.
Yeah, the only thing I can tell you, Huss, is that I heard about it last night too, and I guess news broke this morning or broke last night. The party line today when the Bombers did their media availability is, we got a game to focus on, and we feel bad for Rasheed, but I know that the club is interested, that they have reached out, and we'll see where that goes. It seems like it would be kind of a cool reunion, wouldn't it? Because the Bombers receiving core has been a huge question mark. When Dalton Schoen and Kenny Lawler went down, we saw some flashes from Pokey Wilson, but they're starting two other CFL rookies in Kevin Sclarcius and Josh Johnson. So, you'd think it would be an upgrade. I don't know what he did wrong here in Toronto because, he's posted good numbers. He did what Rasheed Bailey always does. I think it would be an interesting ad for the Bombers because of a lot of things. There's his receiving talent, and, Zach could use some more targets of guys he's familiar with. He brings that physical element that the ground game and the rest of the receivers appreciate when they're in open field and trying to run. And he brings just that energy and that kind of, there's few like him. And so, I'm not sure that, we knew what would happen when Jamarcus Hardrick and Rasheed Bailey left the building. But now that you're kind of living it, you think, wow, those guys did really bring a lot of energy. And it's not that other guys haven't picked up and done the similar thing. It's just that there was a uniqueness to how they did it. So all kinds of reasons to maybe take a look at them. Having said that, they do I keep saying this, and maybe it's time for some of these guys to step up and be more consistent. They do like what they have here. And I get asked a zillion times a day, what about Lucky Whitehead? He's not on the roster again for tomorrow. It's just because they really do like these young guys, and maybe we need to see some evidence soon, but they're really high on these young guys, and they want to give them still a little bit more runway before they start bringing in more of these veterans like Lucky off the practice roster, or even bringing back Rasheed Bailey.
Well, this is from Ben Grant, who does color for the Argos broadcast, just on the Bailey situation. He tweeted, "It's really tough. They're very high on Polk, who's only 22, and on a rookie contract. Of course, they've got Tavares, Daniels, and Coxey. With Mattel and Unger back and Edward hurt, you have to start two Canadian wide receivers. and American vets aren't going on the PR, and that sort of led to this situation, which I think is a big opportunity for the Bombers. Like, I did joke last night, and I wasn't really even joking. I mean, it is such a unique situation with the amount of time he's played with this team, with this offense. You theoretically could sign him and stick him in the lineup and just dare to dream the Rasheed revenge game scenario going up against Toronto 2 days after getting released on the other side would have been incredible CFL theater. But I do imagine, according to the team, this will be a story we'll kind of be following next week, because the job at hand right now is to beat the Toronto Argonauts tomorrow with the roster that has been released and is already set for tomorrow's game.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ben Grant does a great job covering the Argos, and it's interesting that they said, you can't keep, Dinwiddie said you can't keep an American on the practice roster. Well, that's where Lucky Whitehead is. That's where Ravi Alston is. The Bombers like him. That's where Myron Mitchell is. The Bombers like him. So the Bombers have a lot of prospects there. It's weird to me from the outside, and for the Argos to sign Bailey in free agency and rave about what he's doing and then say thanks for coming out 6 games in for them, it's a little odd. It would have been a cool story just to say, hey, we'll meet you at the stadium, just come to the visitors' locker room and you can suit up. But you don't practice all week with the other guys and then make a move like that. I suppose it would have been possible if this had happened, on last Sunday or Monday. But even then, you'd want to bring him in and have him run around a little bit with his new old team before you do something like that. I think, again, I keep coming back to this. The more that this stuff happens, the more that you've got a Lucky Whitehead in the building and now a Rasheed Bailey available. I think it really just cranks up the pressure on some of these young guys. It's a win now business, and it's tough. And, we saw Pokey Wilson go crazy 2 weeks ago and then come back to earth a little bit last week. Josh Johnson caught the first 2 passes from Zach Caleros last week, and then I didn't notice him again against Saskatchewan. So, that's just the way this business is. I always say this. They say it's next man up for injuries. It should be next man up too for production. And when you've got vets like that available, man, that's pretty tempting for a team like Winnipeg.
Shout out to our guy Sam Crow with a nice super chat in the on the Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube. Here's my start of the GoFundMe for the Jets to bring Laine home. LOL. Have a good weekend, everyone. Sam Crow, always appreciate your support of the channel. Eddie, as far as this game goes, I was looking at the roster. I mean, the offense was struggled last week. Pretty much looks intact, but a couple pretty significant guys on the 6th game now that won't be part of the defense, starting with Kyrie Wilson. Tell us about what's happened on the defensive side of the football and who's going to be going in to take the place of he and Brian Cole.
Yeah, the Kyrie Wilson one is interesting because he got hurt in the Saskatchewan game, and I can't even remember at what point it happened. And it's really too bad because he had a real good game in that in the loss to Saskatchewan. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they said in a lot of ways you could have made the case that Kyrie Wilson was the Bombers' top defensive player so far this season. That's how consistent he's been. That's a big hole. It might not get a lot of it might not get the Dalton Schoen buzz or the Kenny Lawler buzz for him being out of the lineup, but it's big for that defense. And so, I'm expecting that they run so many different defensive packages depending on the situation and the down. I'm expecting to see an awful lot of Tony Jones, who I wrote about the other day. He's a linebacker that they scooped up from Edmonton. He's really quick, man. He can play middle and he can play that weak side. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. And there's going to be certain packages too. I think when Shane Gauthier, the old reliable, slides over into Kyrie's spot too. But that's a tough hole to fill because Kyrie just does so many things really well, and he can drop back in coverage as a linebacker. He can get after you at the line of scrimmage too. So that's a big one. I was looking at it that their 6-game injured list now has 7 guys that you would consider potential starters or would-be starters in Schoen, Lawler, Miles Fox, Celestin Haba, Jamal Parker, Kyrie Wilson, and I'm drawing a blank on the other guys. So it's pretty significant, and I think that's part of why we're here at 2-5 and already not even August yet, and you start thinking about, boy, if they don't get this one and they got a couple coming up against BC, it's starting to get a little scary.
There's no doubt about it. 3-5 feels a lot better than 2-6. Staring down VA and the BC Lions for 2. You mentioned coverage. Are the special teams coverage units ready for the guy in dreads that's going to be fielding kicks from from our punter and kicker? Janarian Grant has been killing everybody this year, on the verge of a CFL record, which I hope he does not achieve, with a touchdown return in 4 straight games if he gets it done. This is going to be a huge challenge for the Bomber punt cover team.
It really is. The Bomber kick recovery units have been real good this year, to be honest. I think it's been a dramatically improved since last season. And again, we've talked about this, Huss, it seems like for a month now, 2 months, Janarian, every time I see him returning the ball for Toronto, I just put my hands over my face and go, oh, God, right? And so it'll be a double whammy if that's happens tomorrow. Mike Miller gave him a huge shout out this week when we talked to him about trying to defend Janarian Grant. You know, Janarian Grant's one of the smallest guys in the league. I don't know if people realize that he's only about 157 pounds. Like, he is small. But as Mike Miller said, he plays like he's 250 because he's so fearless. And it's easy to say that, you know, in a kick return. Yeah, just get it, and catch it and head up field, hit that hole. But when you got guys barreling down at you like that, it takes some stones to be able to do that. And Janarian has big stones, man. He's got a lot of fearless, the way he gets in there. I give him a lot of credit. And so it's going to be tough. They just talk about staying in your lane and corralling. But what he does so well is he hits that seam, and then he finds that extra gear in traffic, which I think is really remarkable. We saw it so many times with Winnipeg. And so that's going to be a huge thing. I think Winnipeg's been behind the 8 ball a little bit this year in the field position game. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think when you're playing a guy like Janarian Grant, you're going to have to expect that if you keep him out of the end zone, there's going to be at least a couple times where he flips the field and the Argos are starting in Winnipeg territory because he's that dangerous.
Well, this has been a tough place for the Bombers to win, even when they've been the best versions of themselves. But I imagine we'll see a team come in with a real sense of urgency, which begats their situation. Marbles registration open, by the way, everyone. Throw it in the chat, !Marbles. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Eddie, fill people in on what you've got cooking at bluebombers.com heading into the game, and then, of course, afterwards as well.
Yeah, so I'm writing a piece for tomorrow. It's our new feature that we run on game day mornings called The Lead. This one's just kind of a bit of a scene setter. I talked to a lot of guys this week, Huss, about, you know, you're 2-5. There's all these injuries. Why do you have faith, or what's keeping you inspired, or why do you think this can turn? And you keep getting the same answers, and it's just these guys say they believe in their grind and they believe in their process, and they still think that there's an awful lot of talent in that room. And it's hard not to argue with that a little bit, right? And we haven't necessarily seen it consistently. That's the thing that's bugging me. But until last week, they had lost 3 of those games. They had lost were by 9 points. They lose that game last week by 10. It was really a one-score game until late. There's something there, but man, they're just making those mistakes at critical times. You know, an interception in the score zone, Nick Dembski's fumble, while it looks like he might be setting the team up for a potential game-tying touchdown. The penalties. Last week, Tywin Garbo took that holding penalty when the Bombers had forced an interception near the end of the first half. Those are the things they've got to clean up. But that's what I've got coming up tomorrow, is that piece to set up into the game recap, and then we'll do our usual upon further review leading into next week. So lots and lots of good stuff on our site, and appreciate you letting me have a chance to shout it out.
Well, listen, good luck to the fellas. We'll be tuned in here from the Peg tomorrow, hopefully seeing the Bombers get a much-needed win on the road in a tough place to play historically for them against, you know, these are 2 teams that just lost to their arch rivals last week. The Argos gave Hamilton their first win of the season. The Bombers took one on the chin from the Riders, so something's got to give, and I imagine both teams won't be in particularly good moods when kickoff comes tomorrow at BMO Field. Eddie, have a great weekend out in Toronto. Good luck to the fellas. Thanks for doing this.
Appreciate you, Huss. Thanks a lot. See you.
All right. There's Eddie Tait, bluebombers.com, before and after every Winnipeg Blue Bomber game. And, of course, Ed with the latest on the club throughout the week for all of you Blue Bomber fans. The Goldeyes are back in action on the road right now, but coming back for a big 7-game homestand beginning on Tuesday with the Ukrainian night. I saw Husley's going to be singing the anthem. It's always Ukrainian night for me at the Goldeyes because the pierogi stand is one of my favorite food options there. But get on out there Tuesday night throughout the week, all the way into Holiday Monday with the fish back in action. Tickets available at goldeyes.com. And more information on group tickets and other promos coming up over the next little while. Got to thank our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. We will see you soon. And hopefully I will be able to come back or maybe show up on some of their social feeds, banging out some monster walleyes and lake trouts and pikes and more from beautiful Aikens Lake. If you're looking for a fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the spot. And listen, as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality, the Turen family and the Aikens team might be even better. Find out more online, aikenslake.com, on any remaining 2024 fishing season availability, and get booking into 2025 at the one and only Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Assiniboia Downs will be back in action on Monday and Tuesday next week. And then, of course, the following week is the Derby. Holiday Monday, August 5th, the annual running of the Manitoba Derby will go. We'll have more on that. We'll have to get Darren Dunn on the program as we head into the big day for the track. In the meantime, though, back in action for the next few weeks, Monday and Tuesday live racing. asdowns.com for more information. And much like we did on Tuesday, you'd be smart to get a booking in the clubhouse dining room for that incredible prime rib buffet they pull out on racing nights down at Assiniboia Downs. Quick Breezy Bend golf update. It is the 3M Open on the PGA Tour. And Matt Smith is your leader at 10 under par. One shot ahead of Putnam and Bridgman. Oh, my guy, Doug Gim, the Gim Reaper. He is 2 shots back right now, and some nice performances by the Canadians. Mac Hughes is 2 shots back, and he's just getting going on his round after an opening 64 yesterday. So he'll be pushing for the lead. Adam Svensson's at 6 under. Ben Silverman also at 6 under. So some great performances right now for the Canadians early on. Tony Finau's at 6 under right now. And Taylor Pendrith, Coolbet guy, he's 6 under as well. So lots of Canadian content right now at the Open. And of course, we've also got the CPKC Women's Open right now out at Earl Grey Golf Club. The leader is Lori Coughlin from the United States, along with, I believe, Hannah Green. Going down the list to see where our girl Brooke Henderson is. Brooke is tied for 18th right now. Even par on the tournament. So just 5 shots back right now and has not yet teed off. So she'll be one of the feature groups a little later on. Congratulations again to Braxton Coots. 4 straight amateur championships here in Manitoba. The pride of Breezy Bend. Hell of a great place to have some junior golfers learn the game. If you're looking for a great long-term home on one of Winnipeg's top private courses for you and your family, contact Corey Johnson at Breezy Bend about membership options for the 2025 season. Of course, great spot to host weddings as well. You can find out more online at breezybend.ca. All right, marbles, exclamation mark marbles, get those in. Let me take a quick look at the Coolbet lines while we're at it. We're going to quickly catch up with Jeffrey Bannon, too, and get ready for the Labor Day weekend for a few minutes before we drop the marbles. But Olympic basketball is ready to go. Canada taking on Greece tomorrow, 2 p.m. Canada 7.5-point favorites over Giannis and the Greeks. Canada minus 333 as a money line favorite. Olympic soccer Sunday. We're going to see how much heat our Canadian women are going to be taking as they will be going up against the host French. France minus 167 favorites on the 3-way. A draw plus 285. Canada 5-1 underdogs and a total of 2.5. Coolbet has everything right now for the Olympic Games. Pretty much every single event. If you're really into it, you want to put a little sprinkle down on it, just go to the Paris 2024 section in the Coolbet. And we do have a couple of promos, great boosted odds. If you like the favorites in UFC on the weekend, Leon Edwards and Tom Aspinall, if you did that manually, it'd be minus 128. They've got the super boost up to plus 110 for those two favorites to win. Dusty and I put together a Lock Shop double play today. Reds and Royals money line. That one's up to plus 236. I've got some other great baseball options as well. And of course, the Coolbet exclusives with some Olympic exclusives and some CFL exclusives. How about this one? Big game for Zach Collaros. Zach Collaros, 300 passing yards and 2 TDs passing and a Bomber win. Pay a 5-1 in the Coolbet exclusives as well. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played at Coolbet before. And don't forget, if you're betting CFL, you've got that 20% win boost to use on one CFL bet each and every week. Screen cap any CFL bet and send it into contest at winnipegsportstalk.com for a chance to win a trip for two with myself and the gang of the 1930 crew on the Huss bus. And of course, we'll have the bonfire bus as well with Darren bombing. Now listen, we're going to do last call for marbles. So last call, Remis and I are going to get this set up. But right now, speaking of the 1930 crew and upcoming Labor Day weekend, the push is on right now to sell out the rest of the available seats. And I thought we'd do a quick check-in with organizer and our good friend Jeffrey Bannon on the big Labor Day trip I'm looking forward to being a part of and hope you'll join us. Here's JB. JB, getting down to the short strokes. Hard to believe that we are not too far away from Labor Day weekend in Regina.
And it's crazy, and especially this year, we're leaving in August versus September. That's Saturday, August 31st. So you're getting the final stretches ready, the final preparations, and now's the time to hop on board to join us as we cheer our blue and gold in enemy territory.
Well, yeah, and owing them one, considering what happened last Friday in Regina. But let's get to this. You put this together. I'm really excited to be a part of it and hosting one of the buses. Darren Bombing from Bonfire Sports, Dave Patrician, Carter Chen. But if people are kind of thinking, or have been, shall we say, on the fence or just procrastinating like many Winnipeggers do, this is really crunch time to finalize things and get the remaining spots on the bus filled up.
Yeah, 100%, Huss. Like at the end of the day, like hotels, we need, you got to get the hotels in, you got the buses in. We secured the tickets through contacts at the riders. But if you're waiting, it's almost that traditional Manitoba social mentality. You may show up and it may be sold out. So at the end of the day, you got to get on this right away. Contact us. Let us know. Payment plans, whatever works for you, we will work with you. But we'd rather you join the crew now versus sit on your couch and watch at home while we have the party of the century in Regina.
Well, and you guys have done a great job at putting together, what should be 3 amazing days with a bunch of great people. Obviously a big game, but anyone that's been to the Labor Day Classic knows it is about the weekend overall. But fill people in on kind of what you guys have put together, the package for Bomber fans to come and join us to head west, beginning on Saturday and coming back on the holiday Monday.
You betcha. So in the beginning, you're going to arrive. We're going to cook you breakfast, so you get on the bus with a full stomach. And then, we get on the bus, head towards Brandon. There'll be some refreshments, as we can say, the entire trip out there. Maybe a little trivia questions. And then, as we roll into Brandon, Dr. Football DDP will be waiting there with your gift bag. Boom, as soon as you walk into the hotel, so you don't have to wait in line or do anything like that. We may have a little stop in Brandon along the way. We're working those details as we speak. And then Saturday night, we have a little soiree planned. And then Sunday, as you know, we're going to hit Wayne's World before the game. Co-founder Pat Rathwell has already set that up for us. And then we're going to invade Mosaic Stadium and have ourselves a nice little W for the blue and gold.
No, it's been a couple of years since we've done the tour. And when you reached out to me, I'm like, I am in. It is about time we get back there. And I'll tell you what, considering the way this season has started, I have a feeling our hosts might have a little more pep in their step than they may have had the last few seasons. But honestly, and we've talked about this before, dating back really the last couple decades, you can throw the records out for these teams when you get to Labor Day weekend. We can remember the Bombers being 7-1 and the Riders 1-7, and the Riders winning both games, and obviously the Bombers pulling off some upsets as well. But this season in the landscape of the Western Division, so topsy-turvy considering what we've been used to the last few years. This game, I mean, Bombers are almost going to be in playoff mode at that point.
And if you think about, look what happened last game with the Big Hill, which I don't think was a late hit, but that's a whole different story. And then, yeah, when we were 7-1 and they were 1-7, and then I remember putting up those billboards. Oh, God love Jerry Moslowski. I'm like, can we do this? And he's like, you go ahead and do this. Little did we know it'd be, 2 straight losses, but the rivalry is always there. And to be, we know this. This is the 2 best fan bases in the CFL, and you're not part of it. You're not part of it, right? So.
So let's get to what is important right now, and that is for people that are considering rolling with us to Regina on the weekend. How do they reserve their spot? Where do they go? Fill us in on the action plan for people that are listening to this right now that said, I do not want to miss out, and I will be rolling on the Huss bus.
So whatever is easiest for them to get a hold of us, DM social media, Tara will take care of us, or the email, the 1930crew@gmail.com. Myself or Pat will get back to you. And all we need is your interest and that you want to be part of it. We'll work out the payment details as we go along. Like I said, we just want you to join the crew. We want you on the Huss bus. We want everyone to have a great time. And it's getting down to the crunch time. Believe it or not, it's August. So here we go.
Yeah, well, listen, I am counting down the days. It is going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Pat and all the crew that are already on board, as well as some of you WSTers that might think, it is about time to invade Regina. Experience Regina, as the song says, hopefully with a win, but guaranteed a great few days on the 1930 Crew bus tour. Check it out, Instagram, X, Facebook, at the 1930 Crew, and the same thing for email, the 1930crew@gmail.com. And Jeffrey, you and the rest of your crew can get everyone taken care of, signed up. We'll fill the rest of the remaining seats and get ready to count down to that Saturday when we leave bright and early and get ready to have a hell of a 3 days out west.
I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, everyone just, now's the time. Like, it's not a sell job, Huss, but if they want to get on board, they got to reach out now because the spots are filling quickly.
Appreciate it, buddy. Have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to catching up with you in the next few weeks before departure at the end of August for Labor Day weekend.
Thanks, Huss. Go Blue.
All right, thanks to Jeffrey for jumping on. I see Bravo Bry. You have not lived until you have taken a bus trip to the Labor Day Classic. Bravo Bry was on the original H&L bus many years ago. It was actually where we first met Brian, a true beauty. But I'll tell you what, if you are thinking about it, get on it now. Talk to some of your friends. Would love to have you join us. And I can tell you, Jeffrey and Pat done a great job organizing this. There's going to be a great crew of individuals. And I did see Justin ask, can I reserve my spot and still wear my Riders jersey on the bus? There's always a couple. That's part of the great thing about the rivalry. We'll be partying with the Rider fans all weekend and hopefully getting the last laugh on Sunday afternoon at Mosaic Stadium. But again, the 1930crew@gmail.com. Easiest way just to get in touch with them on email or on any of the social channels. But book your spot. Let's do it. And I cannot wait. The countdown is on to Labor Day weekend. All right. Well, guess what, gang? It is marbles time. Remis, how are we looking? We ready to indulge ourselves in a little Tristan Rivers music to get things going?
It's Friday!
RM getting us ready for marbles. By the way, I see Pat Rathwell is actually in the chat right now. Said, would love to see the WST fan base on the bus. Let's go. Yeah, you can get Pat in the chat, or again, get on it. And Atomic said, my last trip to Regina for the LDC, we lost 52-0. I was at that game. We were chanting late in the fourth quarter, all we want is a rouge. We didn't get it. And that was the dubious start to the Tim Burke era in blue and gold, if you recall, after Lapo got canned. It didn't work out well for the team, the organization going forward, but brighter days ahead. And we owe the Riders one after last Friday. So anyways, hopefully you'll join us. Remo, let's get to a little marble race here.
I'm pulling it up. 200 and...
You disappeared, by the way.
I did? Oh. What's it? There. I pulled it up.
I'm back.
215 entries in here. I picked a good track. It's called Tricky, Twisty Thing.
I like it. I like it. Did you get me in there?
I'll put you in. People want a drone marble. Patrick Laine.
Yes. Can WNT drone.
Yeah. Yeah, can W. I don't know if you saw the picture floating around social media. It's the opening ceremonies. Right
how
now,
did our Canadian team look?
Right now, us here. Showed it to Mike Beauvais on X. Putting this screenshot. There's Team Canada. The bones. And they have a bunch, for people on the podcast, a bunch of drones are photoshopped above them. But they're all on the boats wearing their Lululemon outfits, each country.
Does Lululemon make a special Olympic drone?
The jokes are flying. I did see, it's talk here. I don't know if it's as much of a talk outside Canada. Ariel Helwani interviewing soccer legend Didier Drogba. He's saying, the only issue is they got caught. It's not a big deal. It's what happens on the field that matters. So Peyton Manning on the NBC broadcast of the opening ceremonies called it a soccer spygate. He would be very familiar with Spygate. I mean, Bill Belichick still had his job, right? He never had to.
He did, and that's why Bevlicek thought that she could just miss the first game voluntarily and then go back and all would be forgiven. Didn't work out that way for our head coach. She's on her way back to Canada and will not be coaching the team at the Olympic Games. Canada-France, Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a fun. We'll be able to get up in the morning on the weekend right now and get right into it. We got Canada basketball tomorrow afternoon, Canada-Greece, and then the Canada-France women's soccer game on Sunday. And Summer McIntosh, as we spoke with Jesse earlier today, hopefully going to start a gold rush for Canada tomorrow right out of the gate. But yeah, we definitely need one for Laine now that he's out of the NHLPA player assistance program, to wish him well. And I think maybe Sheed.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome back, Rasheed Bailey, if we can make that happen. A marble, I think, gives it, just some positive karma going into next week.
Yeah, I'll put in Rasheed Bailey for sure. We need a bomber win. This is the Bring 'em Home show. Patrick Laine.
That's right.
And Rasheed Bailey. Awesome. So here, I'll save it. What's going on? How many do we got? 2. That's like 218 now. What's it? Marbles, July 26th. Bam.
Perfect.
Let me bring it up. Here we go. We already played the song, so I don't need to play it again.
Yeah, we were pretty much ready to go. Still basically a pick 'em, by the way, in that Calgary-Ottawa game tonight. 6:30 start from Ottawa. Calgary minus 116 on the money line. Ottawa minus 104 over at Coolbet. What's this one called again?
Tricky, Twisty Thing.
Tricky, Twisty Thing. Love the new user-generated and made tracks that we've used. Here we go. The Tricky, Twisty Thing.
219.
All right. Good luck, everybody. As I mentioned, we are a few weeks away from getting the new hoodies. Right now we're out of large and XLs.
Hoodies.
Yeah, well, we're going to need to load up because we've had so many winners. And talk to our pals at Shipman Associates about getting a few more of those probably into mid-August right now. But we do have small, medium, and a couple double X's still around. So Maybe hopefully one of our smallest WSTers will win it today, and we'll be able to hook you up right away. And thanks to the patience for anyone that maybe had won in the last couple of weeks that we didn't have their size right now. All right, it's the tricky, twisty thing on the Bring 'em Home show of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Laine's got a marble. Sheed's got a marble. You all have a marble. And now let's drop the marbles and see who gets to the finish line first on our new track today. All right. I do always like the big Plinko starts. Cowboy calling fast. What's up, Call? Kevin Kowalik. Bailey, the official intern, with a nice start. All right. We're moving her around the corkscrew to get things started. A massive group. Brown-eyed girl MJD. Bardo, who's just a winner recently. Oh, Stem. Okay, we're getting some eliminations right now. Here we go into the big sphere. Oh, wow. Will Sutton. Yin Vivian just got tossed as well. Russ Lowen.
Yeah, there's a big jump there, so some didn't make it.
Big jump. What do we got in first right now? Cigars, everyone, is our first place marble, I believe. Once we get through this next one, we'll start seeing. Yeah, Cigars, everyone. Terry Paul, Royal Sports Team Sales. Scott Westman. Scott, great to see you at the track the other night. It was a very, very good time. Trevor Red Ranger, a two-time winner of this event. Tony Pop. Oh, everyone's stopped right now. We've got a little bit of a traffic jam going in. Who's going to get out first? Rob Mahoney's in there. Who else? Trevor Red Ranger. Who's going to be the first marble to get through? Oh, it's Mahoney. Mahoney breaks through. Oh, he got stopped again. Kevin Kowalik right now. And the Herbert. Presley is in the mix. What do we got here? Presley, the Herbstler, and Derminator all right now. All right, Kevin Kowalik and the Herbstler. Now we're going up the elevator to the top. Oh, we've still got plenty of track left to go here. But it does look like Tony Pop, Cigars for Everyone pushing, but Kevin Kowalik and the Herbster right now in first. What do we got? Some sort of lasers or something in this funnel.
Yeah, lasers,
like
glow sticks. It's crazy over there.
It's like the opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
Of Paris Games.
We need a drone track here.
It really do look great. I'm wondering where. Doesn't look like there's the normal hole in the middle.
Oh, I think Kevin just found it.
Oh, there we go. Cigars for Everyone and Kevin Kowalik right now, neck and neck. It could not be any closer. The Derminator just got whacked. So did Scott Westman. I'm not sure what happened there, but Kevin Kowalik's in first. Cigars for Everyone. And now the Herbster and Trevor Red Ranger right behind, although stopped a little bit right now. Okay, they went green. This is interesting. Okay, Kevin Kowalik, I think, has the inside track going in. And now up. It's Kevin's race to lose right now. Can anyone catch him? Cigars for everyone is making a pitch. And a little bit of speed there. What happens with this last obstacle? Kevin's got through it. Oh, this is another one of these bomb things that stops people from going out. Who's it going to be? Cigars for Everyone. Kevin Kowalik. Will they do the dirty work and someone come in at the end? It looks like Cigars for Everyone going to be the first one. Tony Pop's in the mix. Presley's now showing up. Could it be Trevor Red Ranger with the win? I think he's now a 3-time champion, going back to the earliest days of the marble race. Incredible performance by Trevor. Kevin Kowalik, the Herbster, Presley Tornowski, and Cigars for Everyone, the top 5. Tony Pop, Mike Cochran, Winnipeg in the top 7. Rob Mahoney's in now. Royal Sports in 10, and the Royal Sports Team Sales. How about that? Opposite ends of the office of Royal Sports jumping in. I have a feeling the fire might be burning a lot of people, Reem.
a lot of people not happy about this track in the chat. I thought it was I didn't realize everyone was going to be so far behind. It just burned everyone. I'm not sure why, but Spency saying rigged. It's your boy Bruce, so dramatic. Rip City says crazy track. Kowalik robbed. Derminator, I could have been a contender. Wayne Bretsky calls shenanigans. Kevin Kowalik, who was right there, says Bush League. Spency, screw job. Duck Dad, this game is rigged. Yeah, crazy. I thought it was a pretty crazy track. I don't know. Maybe everyone was just
Let's see
slow.
how many people actually finished. It's going to be the
10.
small. Oh my God, 10.
That's it.
That's it. That's the biggest bloodletting of any marble race in history.
So when you go pick the track cuts, it gives you a percentage of how many people will finish. This one said 30, and so everyone I don't know why everyone was so far behind. I tested it earlier, and that was not the case.
Interesting. Well, it happens. New tracks, new races. Trevor Red Ranger wins. Justin of Balgoni. How do you get your name as one of the balls? Justin, about 2:45, we open up registration. You'll see in the chat the instructions, but that's why everyone was putting exclamation mark marbles. When you do that, you get a marble in the race. So it's a push for everybody else other than the top 10. Nicely done to Trevor Red Ranger. Truly one of the all-time highest-ranked marble players in the history of the WST marble race. Good stuff. What's up for the weekend, Remis? You sticking around town, or are you?
I'm going to Winnipeg Beach tomorrow. It's boardwalk day, so they got the rides out there. We'll see what else is going on. I might go to the beach, but yeah, gonna hit the they got the Gravitron there, salt and pepper shaker.
Oh wow!
I don't know what are the other standard rides that they've had for since I was a kid. It's the same rides, and now my son will be learning about boardwalk day. So, but
very
excited.
very humid outside today.
Is it?
Pack a little extra water.
Oh, we had
the heat warning. Heat warning is still in effect. Daytime highs approaching 30. Humidity already a factor. Humidex values of 38 or higher expected. I think the Humidex feels like it's about 36 right now. I think I'm going to probably go to BP. Well, tomorrow for the game for sure. Maybe even tonight. Take advantage of some AC. And then get into some Olympics tomorrow. Great week of shows. Thanks to everyone that's been with us. I know a lot of people that maybe normally are watching on YouTube and been listening on the podcast. We've seen a nice bump there. But for all of you regs in the YouTube chat, thanks for keeping us company all week long. We will be back on Monday to break down the Bombers and Argos. Look ahead to the Thursday night game against the BC Lions. And, of course, the latest on the Olympic Games. We'll have Canada basketball and women's soccer to talk about, and hopefully some great medal performances, I should say, from our Canadian athletes. That's going to do it for us. Thanks again to the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen every day. All of you for hanging out with us. Shout out to Remo for getting making it all happen behind the scenes. And we will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay cool.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite